dropping the hammer.
No, you're not.
And welcome back to season 2 of Dropping the Hammer with Jon LaFollette. I'm Jon LaFollette. We are getting a late start to this season for various reasons, but we are finally back. And with me today is a co-host, a guest co-host, maybe, I don't know, potential future, just permanent co-host if he wants to. You may have remembered him from one of our better episodes from last year. John, give me more super speedways, LaFollette.
First of all, my middle name is give me all the super speedways, not more super speedways. And the last name is LaFollette. I'll have you know, not LaFollette. It's fine. You can call me.
I'm just gonna call you Law. I'm just gonna call you John Law.
You call me whatever. You call me whatever you want to call me.
You're a lawyer in the making, lawyer in waiting.
Yeah, I should know the bar results here in a couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to it. So, I think it's the last episode you posted was an interview with AJ Allmendinger. And the last time I was on the show, we were talking about AJ Allmendinger because he just won the road course at Indy. So it seems our fates are intertwined. So, I mean, maybe this portends. Well, I mean, they're going to COTA this week. Maybe we'll have another reason to talk about AJ Allmendinger again or something next week or something. But no, happy to be back. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. But those of you who have listened before, of course, my last co-host for the last year was my good friend James Crow. He has decided to step away from the podcast to deal with some stuff. So wish he could be here, but he's not. But John's here, and so we have 5 weeks of NASCAR racing so far in the books in the NASCAR Cup Series. We are coming off the. At one point, I tweeted yesterday, Sunday, John, that this is the first real wild card race of the year, and it's really weird to say that about Atlanta, of all places. But Atlanta or Atlanta Superspeedway, Daytona Light, what? How do we describe this? It's not a Superspeedway. It's still a 1.54 mile track. It just got higher bankings, narrower backstretch, wider front stretch. And thanks to the rules package, 510 horsepower, 7-inch rear spoilers, and other stuff, what we saw was basically Daytona and Talladega on a smaller scale. What did you think of Sunday's race?
You know, I really enjoyed it. I know that this has kind of been a hot button issue ever since they announced the changes that they were going to do to the track as far as, you know, changing the banking and trying to make it a super speedway sort of race. I never really had an opinion one way or the other. I do know that, like a lot of people said on the broadcast and have said in the media, that the old Atlanta just wasn't good anymore. I mean, I know that I was thinking about the races last year. All I remember last year was the first race Kyle Larson led damn near every lap. Except for
the last 7.
Except for the last 7.
Blaine took the lead finally.
And if I recall, I think Kurt Busch won the summer race, but I can't tell you.
That was actually a good race. That was legitimately a good race.
I legitimately cannot remember a single moment from that race, because even if it was a good race, which I mean, I believe you. I believe that it was a good race. I trust your judgment on that. But like when I think about last season, like Atlanta doesn't even compute. It just doesn't. Yeah. When I think about like my favorite moments from last year, Atlanta just doesn't come up. And, you know, I really thought this worked. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't just a parade. It wasn't guys spaced out. Guys were, you know, bumping and grinding all day. They couldn't get away from each other. There was a lot of pack racing. It was exciting. You know, was it contrived? Sure. But I don't really care about that. You know,
I've seen people on Twitter. This is manufactured. And like, well, have you been watching Daytona and Talladega since 1988?
Yeah, or literally any like sports series, like any racing series, like, you know, for me, and you know, I think Brad Keselowski, I was reading some quotes that he said to Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic. You know, he seemed kind of ambivalent about Atlanta, one way or the other. He didn't really. You know, a lot of drivers were kind of polarized on this, it seemed like, but he was somewhere in the middle. But he had a good quote that basically said, if this is what the fans want, then so be it. And the attendance was great. I think the Speedway president said that it was the best attendance they've had in like 8 years or so. And even on TV, it certainly looked like it. And so whatever, say what you want, but the race got butts in the seats and it got eyes on TV, which that's good for the sport.
Well, we'll see tomorrow. We're recording this Monday, so TV ratings come out Tuesday.
Right.
And that will be the real. Okay, so how much buzz were they able to drive around this race to get people to watch? Which is important. And again, like, I mean, I wrote my weekly column, Dropping the Hammer, at Frenchers.com. Like, no one was vocally asking for this. There was no one saying, "Hey, let's turn Atlanta into a mini super speedway." There wasn't. The majority of people are clamoring for more short tracks. And while Marcus Smith is actually trying to do that with Nashville Fairgrounds and also resurrecting North Wilkesboro, although not for the Cup Series, unfortunately, no one was wanting Atlanta to be what it is now. No one was. But that's what we got. And as like, I'm ambivalent about it too, but I admit I was entertained. like
same.
There was pretty much every time I looked up at the TV, someone new was leading. Like, it was, you could not look away, and you haven't been able to say that about an Atlanta race in 10 years.
And if it wasn't actual pack racing lead changes back and forth, it was one of 3 leaders blowing a right rear tire. It was, so I thought that was interesting as well. I don't know if it was just Camber's setup. That's
basically what they're coming down to.
So that's not the tracks issue. That's just something that could be easily corrected for the next race. They're racing here again in July, correct?
Yep.
Sometime in the summer.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. I can't wait. And I don't think I've ever said that as an adult watching NASCAR. Like, I can't wait till they go back to Atlanta. Like, I've never said that. I think that's a good thing for the sport. And I thought this race was really good. William Byron wins. It's another what am I trying to say? It's another Hendrick win, excuse me. Mm-hmm. It's another Hendrick win, and they've won 3 out of 5. So if you just look at the plain stats, like, oh, here we go, another Hendrick domination year. But like, it doesn't really pass the eye test when you look at it, because Hendrick's getting these wins, but also Ross Chastain is competing week in, week out right now. So is Tyler Reddick. Even Daniel Suarez has 2 top 5s this season. He could have won California. And then Bubba Wallace came in second at Daytona, and he was right there in the mix again yesterday as well.
He was my pick to win, because like, if you finish in the top 2 in the last 3 super speedway races, something's going right.
Right. And it looked like he was in the catbird seat, but then there on the last lap, that second lane for whatever reason didn't quite develop. But it was really cool to watch an Atlanta race where you had no idea what was going to happen in the last lap, and that's just something we haven't seen.
Okay, so this is a good jump off point for a minute. What is your definition of a good race? Like, at the end of the day, when you look back at a race you just watched, what's your general measurement for, okay, yeah, that was a good race, that I'll vote yes on Jeff Gluck's poll?
Was there something memorable that happened? Is there something I can like have a conversation with someone else who watched the race with? So I guess by that kind of definition, the last year's spring Atlanta race could kind of meet that definition, just because of what happened in the last 7 laps. But you have to take it, I guess you have to look at the big picture as well. One fluke thing at the end doesn't really make a good race, doesn't make a race good or bad. Like, I would say the same thing about Phoenix last week. Things got kind of interesting there at the end with all the restarts, but like, by and large, I didn't really feel that compelled watching it. Part of that was just because
Phoenix is I think is kind of an interesting case, because until they reconfigured it back in 2018, flipped the front backstretch,
right?
Boring track. Like, just please no, can we just be past this race? But since that, the races have been more compelling, and the 2 races last year, especially the championship race, I thought were really good. This year's race was compared to like Auto Club in Las Vegas, it was tame. It was a lot more tame.
Right.
But for Phoenix, it was still good.
Yeah.
Like I like there was a part in the the stretch where, oh, is this gonna be Ryan Blaney's race? Oh no, he's gonna have pit road problems. And then all of a sudden Chase Elliott's leading, and then, oh wait, where did Chase Briscoe come from?
Right.
Can Chase Briscoe hold on? He did. And so it's like, really, like, for the longest time, the West Coast swing was this just aggravating portion of the year. Like, once you got past Don't Daytona, it's like, okay, we got Auto Club, Las Vegas, Phoenix. Can we just get through this, please? Yeah. Like, let's get to Martinsville and we can have a good time.
Right. Or like after the summer Daytona race, like, oh, next is Kentucky and Pocono. Cool. Great. And now it's the Brickyard, which used to be cool but isn't anymore. Great.
Hey, you take out those issues with the curbs, and that road course race was amazing.
Oh yeah, no, the road course. No, I'm not bashing the road course race. I'm talking about the oval.
Okay.
Like the oval Brickyard. No, I'm all for the road course race. I've been an advocate for that for years.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So
okay.
Yeah, I'm not, but like, no, I agree with you. Like, I don't know. And I kind of, watching this Atlanta race, I thought about California, not in terms of the racing, but in terms of like the choices that are being made or have been made regarding these tracks, because it seemed like this Atlanta configuration was predicated on the way that the previous car had run, which was not very good.
Yeah.
And then California, it was reported by Bob Proctor, I think, first that they want, or no, it was Jordan Bianchi, I think, of the Athletic, who said that California is now considering going to a small track, converting from a 2 mile.
Yeah, that was first reported 2 years ago, and the expectation was that we'd get that by 2023.
Yeah,
and because of land issues, like they're trying to sell land and stuff.
Yeah, and COVID issue. This was right when COVID happened as well. Kind of things in the air. Like, now the new car has already raced at Fontana, and it was a really good race. And now you hear rumors about, well, now California's reconsidering whether or not they want to do this because now the product is actually viable there. So I just thought that was really interesting.
But this is the problem. This is the thing with Atlanta. Like, there's a lot of people saying, oh, why couldn't we just seen what the new car could have done on the old surface? Well, the old surface was 25 years old. We had to do a red flag in the fall race to fix
it's literally falling apart.
So that was not a viable thing.
No,
just never. Like I wrote in my column this week, I wish we could have done this first race on this new surface unrestricted, like, so we could see what this car could do in its base form without limiting the horsepower and all that, and see what it could do.
Right, I'm with you on that.
We just cannonballed into the deep end of the pool, and look what we got.
It would have been nice to see. I agree with that. And that's something that Kurt Busch alluded to as well. I saw clips of him on pit road after the race.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, he was pretty tight-lipped. Like, he usually will say what he thinks, but he was like uncharacteristically tight-lipped. Like, he wouldn't. It was almost like Marshawn Lynch is like, I'm only here so I don't get fined. Like, that's basically what he was saying. Like, any question he was asked was like,
that was actually the Kyle Busch interview in the garage where he's like, nope. that's the Marshawn Lynch. No, but Kurt, you're right. Kurt, like, he got asked like 3 different times what he thought, and he's like, it's a lot to digest right now. It's wild. And I was like,
yeah. Which I don't know what that means. I assume it means. I mean, it's not like Kurt Busch had a bad day. He came in 3rd, and he's shown really well so far this season. He's arguably the best Toyota in the field right now. Toyota's really had their issues so far this season.
Well, they still technically are. Like, they're not. They're like, even though the 45 is finishing well, they're still needing to figure stuff out in the middle of the race. They're not like up front.
Right.
Right. This is 2 weeks in a row where after the race was over, I was in the middle of writing my race report for Speed Sport, and I looked at the results like, wait, where did Kurt Busch come from?
Right. Like he's having a really good season with 2311. And so his comments aren't coming from, it's not like Kyle Busch, because I read where Kyle Busch was asked if he thought they were entertainers and not drivers this week, and all he said was yep. But again, like he crashed and had a bad race, and we all know how temperamental he is. I mean, if he was in
that's his response to anything bad. Like
I know
he's like, so
but
even if
he, I'm just gonna say, like, even if he won the race, we know that he wouldn't have necessarily been that dry about it or that sarcastic about it. But
he won the first car tomorrow race, and Victory Lane called it a shit box.
That's true. I did forget about that, and history proved him right on that. So, but just back to Kurt Busch, like he came in third. He had a really good race. Yeah, he had his ups and downs, and it was a lot of drivers had a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
So I think that's where he finished, coupled with those comments, is kind of revealing. At least I would like to see them do unrestricted, but at the same time, we just saw how compelling and exciting this race was when it was unrestricted. I mean, when it was restricted, excuse me. So if you're NASCAR, do you want to be wishy-washy about it? Or because you just saw, yeah, the drivers might want to complain about it, but like you just sold a bunch of tickets and you just had a really exciting race at a place that hasn't seen it in almost a decade.
Yeah. Do
you just switch that right away? I don't know. That's really hard call.
Well, guess what? SMI owns Bristol, and you're getting a dirt race in the spring and pavement in the fall. Why not with Atlanta do unrestricted in the spring, or restricted in the spring, unrestricted in summer?
Didn't they allude on the broadcast that they said something about they did a test there at Atlanta with the new configuration, and they didn't, it was with the 650 horsepower, like the general kind of car they've been racing to begin this season. And didn't they say that they found out, I think it was Larry McReynolds said they found out the cars were going quote unquote too fast?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it was
I might have missed
right.
that.
I think it was right at the beginning of the broadcast, but they did a test there, just see what sort of horsepower package they should bring to the race, and they said that the previous one made the speeds too fast. I want to know what constitutes too fast.
Yeah.
I would like to see what that data is, or how fast those cars were going, because
and what was it as fast as when Jeffrey Bodine broke the track record in '97 after the last repave?
I'd be shocked. I would be shocked. There's is too fast 200 miles an hour? Because that's basically what they're doing at Daytona anyway. I know that's a much bigger track.
Well, here's the thing. Here's one of my main concerns about putting a super speedway race onto a smaller track, is because Bubba Wallace got into his wreck on the last lap, going checkered flag, hit driver's side door on the outside wall. Afterward, he says he thinks that was the hardest hit of his career. And this is the guy who had a vicious hit at Pocono in 2018 after not having brakes.
Yeah.
So pair that with also Cody Ware said that his crash on the backstretch with Todd Gilliland was he said also that he thought that was the hardest hit of his career.
That was scary. That was a really scary wreck.
So I never for whatever reason, never saw a good replay of that one.
He hit 1 o'clock angle driver's side going in. If the safety barrier wasn't there, you would have been critically hurt. That was a really scary crash.
So that is my concern. If you're having drivers saying getting into wrecks at a 1.5 mile track, guys who've had worse hits at bigger tracks going faster, that's my concern. What if you're having the hardest hit of your career at Atlanta? So
yeah, that's a good point. And it's this whole race, speaking about that, give and take that we're kind of talking about here. It's yeah, this is exciting, but how much do we want to see NASCAR do this? Yeah, this is fun, but there's another portion of this that for years we've been hearing fans and drivers say that they want more difficult cars to drive. They want more control in the driver's hands. And with the several years of the previous package of the previous car, everything was wide open. It just really didn't feel like the drivers had more of a say in what they could do on the track. And now, so far to begin the season, except for Daytona, obviously, because that's a whole separate kind of beast. But California and Vegas and Phoenix, especially at California and Vegas, we saw a lot of spin outs. We saw a lot of not just drivers, drivers across the spectrum. We saw Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Kevin Harvick do it. I think Blaney did it at one point as well. We saw drivers across.
Blaney had a save. Blaney had a
Yes.
wicked save on the last
Yes.
lap. So and
But like you
So
just saw constant, spin outs, and we saw these cars being difficult to drive, and we saw drivers having to learn and adapt to these new cars. And then we get to Atlanta, and it just feels like new car chassis, but Gen 6 setup, and NASCAR's kind of splitting the baby. But again, like Brad Keselowski said, if it puts butts in the seats and it helps on TV ratings, then what do you do? So here's a question. If you are Texas Motor Speedway and you just saw this, and the only race you have is an all-star race.
Well, no, they have a fall race.
That's right. Yeah, they have a playoff race. But like,
yeah,
we just saw what happened to Kentucky when it was the worst mile and a half. It got put on the chopping block. Mm-hmm. Now we have Texas. You're by and large considered the worst intermediate track now. You just saw what happened. What do you do?
I want to see what the next gen car does. So that's
fair. That's totally fair.
So, my list of the tracks that I want. Okay, let's see what this next gen car can do here. Can it improve the racing at this track? Was first off Auto Club. If we just want to just go up what can this car do past the first 2 laps, which restarts at Auto Club were great, but then
right.
After you got past that, what?
Yeah.
And even though I don't believe there was a green flag run in that race longer than like 20 laps. The racing was great. Like
it was legitimately great.
Daniel Suarez was like a lap away from potentially winning, and he's got a horrible run off turn 4. But it was just like, what's going to happen? Who's going to screw up? And you just couldn't say that forever at Auto Club. So check mark. All right, Auto Club. You go to Las Vegas. Las Vegas was not one of the worst intermediates. It wasn't. It could put on good races. But that was a great race. It was. I mean, it came down to an overtime finish. So that will always somehow cloud your judgment to a degree. But you had Ross Chastain, Trackhouse Racing, and only in second year, out there leading 83 laps. And it wasn't. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely not bothered by one driver dominating for stretches with this car.
No, I'm not either. And even with the previous car, I wasn't necessarily bothered by it, because there is something to be said for one driver and one team just showing up with a hot rod and just beating the pants off of everybody else. That's competition. I get it. But especially in a year like Kyle Larson had last year, where you show up at Atlanta and you lead 300 laps, or you go to the Coca-Cola 600 and you lead damn near every lap. There's a fine point between, if you're NASCAR, you want your talented drivers to do well, because that's what drives all sports. I mean, the NBA has a vested interest in LeBron James and the Lakers playing well. The years that the Lakers don't make the playoffs ratings dip. There's a reason for that. So if you're NASCAR, you want your stars to be winning races. That's not what I'm trying to say. That we need parity. We need Cody Ware to be in the top 5 all the time, or Corey LaJoie has to get a top 5 finish all the time. That's real competition. That's not what I'm saying. It's just. You just get the sense of why am I watching this? And I've kind of felt the same way all those years when Jimmy Johnson was winning the championship all the time. That was when growing up, I loved NASCAR, but then when Johnson started winning all the time, I really fell out of watching the sport, because it felt
okay. Yeah, same. My blind spot, I grew from 97 up through 04, the peak Dale Jr. in the Budweiser 8 years. I was all into NASCAR, and then a combination of just being busy with high school and college, because there's you want to do, and you can drive now, so I'd like to go do things in my car with my friends rather than
right.
But combine that with Johnson's dominance, 05 to 10 is a blind spot for me.
Oh,
in
same,
NASCAR.
same. And honestly, as much as I like, there were so many years I tried to get into Formula One, but like, oh, it's Lewis Hamilton leading every lap and like clinching the championship with like 10 races to go. Like, why? But like last year was actually compelling. Like, I watched more Formula One than I have in my entire life because it was actually compelling.
I had to watch the F1 race Sunday because I had to write up the post about it for Speed Sport, and that was the first F1 race. I missed like the first couple of laps, I think, but I kind of had it going in the background, so it's technically like the first F1 race I've ever watched a majority of. And it was like, oh, there was like 2 laps where the leader was challenged by Max
Verstappen. Yeah,
there's two laps that, and I think it was only because Max like came out of the pits at like just the right time.
yes.
But other than that, pole sitter, led every lap, ran away. It was like,
but like
this is F1. This is the F1 I know.
But at the same time, like it wasn't like, just to quickly stay on F1 just real quick, just because first of all, it was a great Sunday for racing. I did nothing but sit on my couch and watch racing all day. It was wonderful. And I'm so glad that I'm not.
I didn't realize the IndyCar race started so early. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, IndyCar wants no part of competing against F1 or NASCAR. So, but we could talk about NASCAR, the IndyCar race real quick too, just briefly. But like the thing about F1 was like, Mercedes is actually struggling. Like Lewis Hamilton came in 3rd, but if like a couple cars didn't blow their engines, he comes in 5th, and that's like that's a massive disappointment for Mercedes. And this is the guy who's like arguably the GOAT, But so it was cool to see Ferrari get back on for the first time in 2 years. But then also teams like McLaren, who did so well last year, they were a non-factor. My allegiance in F1 is Pierre Gasly, just because my ancestry is French and he's French, and of course his engine caught on fire and he finished last. So, but anyways, what else do you want to talk about here, NASCAR wise?
Oh, so we're going back to tracks that we want to see how this car does. So they've pretty much all checked off so far. Phoenix, I really wasn't concerned about Phoenix because the last car performed well there, so I really didn't have any reason to be concerned that this new one wouldn't. So we got Coda this weekend, and everyone's been saying, oh, this car's going to be awesome, or it's like built for road courses. So
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm very, and I'm going to be there. I'm covering it. So
these cars seem so much more agile, and like I guess just because like the only like real tight corners they've had so far this year was the Clash at the Coliseum, but we heard several times on the broadcast that the old car would be physically incapable of racing there because the turns were too tight. These cars seem so much more agile, and just the fact that road courses in general seem to be a way of shaking up of who you generally see at the front in NASCAR, Chase Elliott aside, is pretty interesting. So I'm excited to see what Coda does. But like for me, like the next big track that I would want to see these cars race at is Charlotte, just because for the last couple of years, these intermediate 1.5 mile tracks, aside from Las Vegas and Kansas, really, they just all felt samey. They felt really samey and indistinguishable from each other. And I look forward to the Roval race way more than I look forward to the Coca-Cola 600. Like the Roval race is so much fun. I would love to go to the Roval race one of these days. But like I'm not at, I know at the top of the show, and even in text yesterday, I was like, we should make all 1.5 mile intermediate tracks. I was just on the Atlanta High watching that race. I don't think the future of NASCAR is making all these intermediate tracks a super speedway style of racing, but at the same time,
I'm glad we can you can be reasonable about this.
Yes, I've come back down from the high. But like at the same time, if you're Charlotte or Texas, it's a conversation worth having, especially if you just saw what Atlanta did, and then you turn around and it's Kyle Larson or Martin Truex leading for 550 laps of your 600-mile race. And your big race on Memorial Day is still stuck in the shadow of Monaco and in the Indy 500, which it always will be to a degree, but like it's always just kind of an afterthought.
But it didn't used to be. Like Coke 600 was one of the biggest races of the year. Like there was a reason they built a grandstand up in turn 2. And it's now gone. That's pretty much the top for me. Can this car revitalize the Coke 600, which is like races are boring to watch. Like, but on the NASCAR heat games, Charlotte's my favorite intermediate track. It's just very weird, but it's like they're gonna be doing the 670 package, 4-inch spoiler at that track. All the intermediates except Atlanta. So I really I'm hoping that could be a compelling race, because that it has not been since at least 2011.
And then again, you know, if these new cars come out and they don't put on a good show, I mean, then what do? I mean, NASCAR is not going to drop Charlotte from the schedule. They can't. They can't. That's their home track. So do you just make them race the Roval and that's it? I mean, there's no way. I mean, so you're just kind of in a rock and a hard place here. I guess that's just my question here is like, for all the warts and all the bumps of yesterday with Atlanta, it was a vast improvement. Granted, it's been one race, but it was a vast improvement over the old product. So then that just kind of leaves these other tracks in a hard spot, because, you know, I don't think NASCAR wants to see a super speedway because if you make so what, there's already 6 super speedway races now. If you had Texas, now you've got 7.
I don't think they'll do that to like if. I have a soft spot for Texas. It's my home track. I went to my first Cup race there.
It actually put on a good IndyCar race this week, thankfully.
It took a while, and then
the PJ1 and IndyCar do not mix. It's like oil and water; they do not mix. But I was genuinely surprised how good that race was for IndyCar, because the past couple of years it's just been a parade. But but I don't know. I
forgot. Let me finish.
Finish. Yeah.
It's my home track. Went to my first Cup race there. But since its inception, like starting like the year after its first race, they've been like poking and prodding, doing stuff with it, experimenting, repaving it, and then doing what they did at turn 1 and 2 in an effort to, you know, make right problems that were made by the car. And it's the results of that have shown when you see the grandstands at Texas last year, which were just, Steve Phelps himself like went on the record and said that is unacceptable.
And it is.
And North Texas, that was a racing city. It was like they turned out, and starting 10 years ago, it's just like, nah, this isn't good.
I know what you could do. Instead of making all these intermediate track super speedways at the expense of sounding like a troll on Twitter, short tracks.
No, if there's like
more short tracks.
Yes, yes, absolutely. If there's any track that just absolutely needs to be completely remodeled, redone, back to the drawing board, it's Texas. And
I agree.
Take Texas off the schedule for a year, 2 years, whatever you need to do. Turn that thing into a short track. Do what they're trying to do with Auto Club. Just do it. I mean, is there going to be cost to it? Yes. But if you just stay the course with Texas, there's like no reason it should be on the schedule within the next 5 years.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, I would much rather see either NASCAR convert these tracks to short tracks, or just find an older short track somewhere that they used to race.
Convert the short tracks to short tracks,
or just find a pre-existing short track that they used to race at, like North Wilkesboro, build those facilities up again and go back, or Rockingham or something like that. And I know that's a line that's been parroted out a bunch, but like in a place like those tracks used to be like the hotbed of NASCAR. There's still an audience there for NASCAR. It's it's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah,
and they will. I mean, look at Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nashville last year was a huge success, and the race was.
You're talking about the okay. Oh, you're talking about Nashville Superspeedway. Okay.
Yes.
Well, look at what happened with the SRX race at Nashville. That place was packed.
Yep.
That was the biggest audience that track's had since the Busch Series last race there in 2000, 2001, something like that. So that was undoubtedly the biggest crowd that place has seen since then.
Yeah.
So
people just want to see good, exciting racing, and especially with the cost of tickets now, and the cost of travel and everything that's associated with going to these events. If it's not worth it, just stay home and watch it on TV if you even watch it at all, especially places like Texas. And I don't mean, I feel like we're picking on Texas here, but you could say the same for Richmond. That's a short track too. Like Richmond hasn't done shit.
Yeah. That okay. Going down the list of tracks that like, all right, what can the next gen car do? Richmond is like number 3, because back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Richmond was the action track, and it lived up to the name
for NASCAR and IndyCar.
Yeah, it absolutely lived up to the name. Outside of the race where Carl Edwards gave the boot to Kyle Busch coming out turn 4 and won on the last lap, you really can't name one highlight moment.
I couldn't even tell you who won Richmond last year.
Bowman.
Okay, yeah, cool, sure. You could have said any driver and I would have believed you. You could have said Ty Dillon. Sure, why not?
But that was
I don't remember.
That was actually an interesting finish because Denny Hamlin had dominated it for the most part, and then there was like a restart with like around 10 to go, and Johnson started behind Hamlin. Wasn't even on the front row with Hamlin.
I remember this now. Yes,
and he managed to get by him on the restart and took it. So it was a good finish, but I couldn't tell you anything that happened.
You have the memory of a NASCAR reporter. I have the memory of a NASCAR fan. So,
and that's why this is a good dynamic.
That's sure.
We both have a blind spot from the Jimmy Johnson years.
Yeah.
But no, if after we get past Coda, then we go to Richmond. So I want to see what this car can do there. Because as of right now, that track doesn't deserve 2 races. But if this car can show up and do what it's hyped up to do there, then hey, I'm hoping to be satisfied.
Right. I don't want Texas. I want every race to be a good race. I don't want Texas to be boring. I don't want Richmond to be boring. I want this new car to put on a show and, put some juice back in this series, some juice that's been missing for the last several years. The more the merrier. I don't even necessarily care. To me, obviously I'm invested in the results and I want to see who wins. It's racing, but honestly, I've watched every race this year except for Daytona. Obviously, that's a whole other category. But every race since Daytona, I've just watched being like, oh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's not like I don't know if William Byron wins, so be it. It was still a good race. I don't particularly cheer for William Byron. He's not my preferred driver, but
I mean, he hasn't. It's not like he's dominating or anything. This was only his 3rd win in 4, 5. Fourth
I'm not
year
sure
on the circuit.
Couldn't tell you how long
he's not lit it up.
3, 4, man.
No, he hasn't. 3. It's 1 3. But he hasn't been lighting it up like people thought he would. He's the look at his stats compared to Alex Bowman. I wrote that in a column 2 weeks ago. It's if you'd gone back 3 years ago and said, okay, these will be the stats of Alex Bowman and William Byron after they've each reached Hendrick Motorsports, would you believe me? I'm like, no. And Alex Bowman has 7 wins. 7. Yeah. They at one point in Sunday's race, they showed a graphic of the top 10 and who had the most wins, and Alex Bowman had the most wins. I'm like, that's what? Which is just it's the Alex Bowman story is a fascinating story because he should not be here. He should, but they took a waiver on him or whatever to replace Alex Bowman. Not to replace Alex Bowman.
Alex Bowman replaces Alex Bowman.
To replace Dale Earnhardt
Rick
Jr.
Hendrick is running a covert cloning operation. Is Chase Elliott the real Chase Elliott? You heard it first on the Danny McFadin podcast.
We're just asking questions. But but no, Hendrick Motorsports took a waiver on him the year Dale Jr. Was injured. He showed up at Phoenix that year and just should have won, but didn't. And then he sat out a year and was their test driver, their simulator driver. And then after Junior retired, he was the guy, and he's showing up. Like right now, like he's performing when it comes to end results. He's doing better right now than Chase Elliott. Like Chase Elliott hasn't won on an oval since Phoenix at the end of 2020.
Yeah.
So, and he's now.
And it's not like Chase Elliott's doing poorly necessarily. I mean, Chase Elliott's first in points. He just hasn't.
Which at least like makes no sense. Like 7 of the guys in the top 10 right now haven't won a race yet. It's for a format that's supposed to emphasize the wins. We're not seeing that so far through 5 races.
Right. I mean, also one, it's still early, but then, especially you see guys like Suarez, like I bet you a bunch of Suarez's points. He's 14th right now in standings, and I'm looking at based on wins. So like they have Chase Elliott at 6th. I mean, he's 14th right now in the standings, but like a lot of his points have come from probably a bunch of all the stage points he got at Fontana and yesterday. So that carries you quite a bit of ways. But can we just talk, speaking of Daniel Suarez, can we just talk about how cool Trackhouse Racing is?
Yeah.
Are they they're not the best team in NASCAR because that's Hendrick obviously with the wins. But like if I was going to introduce someone to NASCAR and be like, this is a cool team, it's Trackhouse Racing, is it not?
It's Trackhouse or 2311.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either the team that's co-owned by one of the most popular athletes in the world, or the team that's co-owned by Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. 305, Mr. Worldwide. Yeah.
So, and
like also just because like Ross Chastain is like a cool dude. Like I've told some of my friends about him. Like I was like, no, you got it. This Ross Chastain guy, he's cool because every time he wins, he just smashes the watermelon like Gallagher. And like that alone, like endears Ross Chastain to people. Like people, like I said to people, like, oh, this guy sounds cool. And like I just love, and like I'll show, we're on a video call right now, so the listener can't see it obviously, but I love Daniel Suarez's Sugar Skull logo. It's just
it is cool.
The look and design of the cars for Trackhouse are so cool. I love the Tootsie scheme. I love how Suarez has always got the helmet cam.
I hate that helmet cam so much.
I love the helmet cam.
I hate it.
I love the helmet cam. I love it in Formula One. I love it in IndyCar. I love the helmet cam.
Michael Watchup loves it. I hate it.
I love the helmet cam, and I love that it's almost always Daniel Suarez.
What'd you think of this rear spoiler cam this weekend?
Sure, it's a different way of showing the race. Like I have no problem with it. I really have no problem with it. If it's a different angle. Did you see the angle that they showed? I don't know if they did it last year at Formula One, but in the Formula One race, they had a camera inside a driver's helmet. Like off to the corner of the screen, you could see like part of his nose. It was like off to like the far right side of his helmet. It was like that was their helmet cam. Was it to like track how much he's perspiring, or no? It just shows like what he's seeing from his perspective. It's they can't have a camera on top of his helmet. Like I know that Graham Rahal's done helmet cam for IndyCar, but Formula One, it was like literally inside of his helmet. You could see like his visor. It was inside the visor. It was so cool.
I'm pretty willing to like give anything a try. When it comes to NASCAR, but when it comes to camera, like onboard camera angles, I feel like I'm pretty old school. Like, just give me a camera on the roof, or just looking straight out the window, not attached to the helmet. Just look, and give me one that's on the rear, looking back. That's all I need.
You heard it here first, folks. Danny McFadin hates Trackhouse Racing. Number one Trackhouse hater. Danny McFadin.
No, I think that they are a pretty cool team. Like, but
they're super cool.
Both Trackhouse and 2011, very very progressive teams. Very just trying to help lead the sport in a positive, just multicultural, just not closed-minded.
I know it's really really encouraging to see these teams. It's because especially with 2311, the expectations on that team are insane because of who owns it, and because of Bubba Wallace, and because of all the spotlight that's on him for reasons beyond his control. But it's and they're doing well. I mean, Bubba Wallace is an Eric Jones caused crash away from being in the playoffs right now. He's only, I think, 6 points back. He's in 18th. He's 6 points out of the last spot.
Can we talk about that save? the save before he wrecked. Him, like, he should have hit him. Like I think anyone else might have hit him, but that save was incredible at Las Vegas to avoid hitting him. That was wow. That was amazing.
But Bubba Wallace is just there because of the color of his skin, Daniel. That's what people on Twitter say. He's not a good race car driver.
I would just like to take a picture of his trophy case. So.
I know, right? I know. It's so dumb. Bubba Wallace is great.
Danica Patrick's only there. No, not Danica Patrick. Haley Deegan's only there because she looks pretty. Again, trophy case.
Trophy case as well. We're on the same page here. Also, I just love seeing Tyler Reddick do well. That win's going to come so soon.
Yes, he's a wheel man.
Yeah, he's incredible. Love cheering for that guy. So love to see the success that he's having. And just Chevys in general so far just have it figured out. Like Hendrick's doing well, but then we spoke to Trackhouse Racing, their Chevys, Austin Dillon, and he's had 2 really bad runs the last couple of weeks just because he's been involved in accidents he didn't cause. But he's been running really well the last couple of weeks. His points, even if his points don't reflect it. Eric Jones has run well. Just Chevys across the board by and large. It's like they got this figured out so far.
Eric Jones was going to finish like 6th or 7th before he wrecked at Las Vegas. Tyler Reddick, if he hadn't had to start from the rear and also then spun out at Vegas, he probably would have finished top 5 rather than 7th.
And then Denny Hamlin is doing very. I mean, here are drivers who are currently ahead of Denny Hamlin in the standings: Corey LaJoie, Ty Dillon, Justin Haley, Chris Buescher. And now
Denny he hasn't finished better than 13th yet this year.
Yeah, and again, you expect that team to, and just Joe Gibbs in general just hasn't really been on the ball this year. I say that as Kyle Busch and Martin Truex are both in the playoff standings right now, but they don't pass the eye test necessarily.
Kyle Busch is 2 laps away from a win.
For sure.
Then their next Eric Jones Rex. And Martin Truex Jr. was 2nd at the same time. So just wrong place, wrong time. That's really it.
For sure. But hats off to 2311 Racing though, just because Kurt Busch is doing really well, and Bubba Wallace, like I said, he's an Eric Jones caused incident away from being in the playoffs as well. And like I said, the spotlight on that team is astronomical, and especially for Kurt Busch to because like you said, these last couple of weeks, it's like, wait, he came where? Like the broadcast almost never mentions him, and then you see him at the end, he's got a top 5, top 10. The transition that both he and Ross Chastain have had to these new teams, it's been almost seamless.
And Busch was also in kind of involved in one of the incidents earlier in the race Sunday.
Yes.
So, but again, this car, just speaking to Ross Chastain, he's leading going into turn 1 and 2, loses his right rear tire, just fishtails, smacks the wall. No one else hits him, which is amazing. A year ago, that car's done. Ross Chastain's done.
The whole rear's crumpled and destroyed, and then it's all pushed on the tire, and the tires are cut down, and then it's done, over.
I actually think, and I'm just now coming up with this, because of the durability of this car, NASCAR might need to revisit the damaged vehicle policy thing, which is I think it's 6 minutes. I want to say, where you have to repair the car and then get back out on the track and get the speed. That's a rule from that was applied for a car that can't take the beating that this car can. So maybe revisit that in some capacity, just like there was a lot of debate, last week about the lug nut rule after Corey LaJoie had his incident at Phoenix, which I get. That was a rule that was applied when there was 5 lug nuts, and you could potentially have a short-term advantage from only properly securing 4, maybe 3. But now you just got 1, and there is no advantage to just to not properly securing that 1 lug nut. But LaJoie thinks like intent should be measured in that to some degree. But I don't know, but
That's
I
a
feel,
slippery slope. It's hard to measure intent.
I just think the severity of the punishment needs to be maybe rethought, because four races or 4 race suspension for the crew chief and 2 other crew members might be too much at this point in this era.
I'll leave that to NASCAR reporters like you. I genuinely have no thoughts on that matter.
Okay.
I mean, I obviously get where I get where NASCAR is coming from, because you don't want a loose tire running down running down a racetrack. I get that. But again, at the same time, I do see where Corey LaJoie is coming from, just because this is a whole different NASCAR. Speaking of taking a beating, I'm always excited for Martinsville. I've never been this excited for Martinsville.
Really?
Yes, because like we've seen guys push each other out of the way and bump and beat each other up and banging into each other there, and now you've got a car that's not going to immediately cut the tire if you hit a guy the wrong way. Like, I think we're going to see some really aggressive short track racing. I think this Martinsville race is going to be great. I'm really looking forward. Like I said, I'm always excited for Martinsville. Like, this is the most excited for Martinsville I've ever been. It's like I'm like a kid on Christmas. That's what
under the lights too. So
and the spring race is under the lights now. Are they? It
has been for the last 2 years.
I thought both Martinsville. Well, I knew that. That's right. See, again,
they both technically end under the lights.
They end at night. That's right. That's right.
So which I hate that. The TV start times are just a whole other.
You gotta think about the West Coast.
No, if the West Coast can get up at 6 a.m. to watch an NFL game in Europe,
that's way different.
No,
that's way different, buddy.
How early do like San Francisco fans have to get up to watch their team when they're playing on the East Coast? They do it.
Football's in a category all by itself, man. Football is an unstoppable behemoth. The NFL can put a game on Mars and people would still pay money to go watch it on Mars. They could put an NFL game on every day of the week and they would just dominate everything. It's just NASCAR just does not have that. I mean, they obviously have a West Coast audience. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they don't, but like, just you're asking a whole different sex of fans to do two different things.
The Pepsi 400 used to start at like 10 a.m. Maybe, or was it 11 a.m. and it's like, that's fine. All right.
Oh, could you imagine? I can't imagine. Like, there's that's just never going to happen again. It's just not. I mean, the Indy 500 used to be at 11. Now it's at 1. And like, even here locally, when it got pushed back to 1, people threw a fit here. So I get it, but like NASCAR, it's not even NASCAR's call. It's the network's call. It's
the networks. It's still just
the new normal.
You can chase the ratings without being desperate about it.
I mean, NASCAR, I'm curious to see what the ratings are for not Phoenix, excuse me, for Atlanta, just because you had the NCAA tournament going on. So I wonder but NASCAR week in, week out to start the season's been the most watched thing on TV every Sunday ever since it started. So
at
least the most watched sporting event, I should say.
The one thing that surprised me was that a Cup race beat Coach K's like final home game at Duke. I was like, oh, that's kind of surprising. I would have actually expected that to beat NASCAR maybe, but that just tells you what I know.
Yeah, and it happened that way because they started at 3:00, Daniel. That never would have happened if it started at 11 a.m.
I don't know. Like, here's the thing: I don't want races to start at 11 a.m.
No,
but like one, give me one.
Nope. 3:00, 4:30, 4:30 for races on the West Coast. 2 Central my time.
Yep. So okay, other tracks that you're wanting to see the next gen car for. We did Richmond, Charlotte, Dover. For me,
yeah, Dover could be one. Bold prediction. I think Daniel Suarez is going to win Dover.
Was he in contention to win there last year?
He said that's his favorite track. He won there in Xfinity. He's always showed well. Even for he's hopscotch throughout his whole career, all these different teams.
Yeah.
He's always shown very well there. He's spoken to how much he loves racing at that track. And he's been really good to start the season. I just think that that's my, for any degenerate gamblers out there, that's my dark horse. That's my dark horse pick when it comes to Dover.
Well, he should have won Bristol Dirt last year. Like,
oh yeah,
that should have been his. And then I can't remember what caution kind of threw a wrench in that.
Probably Ryan Blaney, because Ryan Blaney was in like 3 wrecks last year. But like, if you look at pictures of his car, like half his car is falling. So good.
But no, and didn't he finish in the top 10 with that car? If I remember,
yeah,
right?
I think he's like 12th or something. No, he had a very strong finish.
But
yeah.
no, like Suarez surprised everyone and himself with how he did on Bristol Dirt, and he should have won.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to see what he could do there. But no, Dover is never Dover puts on like one good race like every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when it does, it's good. But like Kyle Larson was gonna just run away with that race last year, and then Alex Bowman had a really good pit stop that got him in the lead, and he was able to get the win. So Dover for me. What others for you?
I know that we're talking about road courses and how this car is built for road course. Coda's it's so different from a lot of these other road courses because that track was built for F1. Mm-hmm. It's so long. It's a very European track. So I think like, what do they call Sears Point now? Sonoma. Sonoma
Raceway.
So I'm sorry.
You tell me you're a 90s NASCAR fan without telling me you're a 90s NASCAR fan.
It's like, I always call it Sears Point. Potato. I think Sonoma will give a better indication for like tracks like Watkins Glen or the Indy Road Course. I'm still really excited for the Indy Road Course. I thought last year's race was fun. Yeah. I know it was a shit show, but I thought it was fun. I'm excited to see what it'll do. Let me look through the schedule here. Just going down. You said Dover. And then it's Texas. 3 straight weeks in May. Texas, Charlotte.
Wait, say that again? Texas, Charlotte? Is that what you said?
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's the All-Star Open and the All-Star race on the same night.
Yeah.
But either way, back to back weeks, Texas and Charlotte. I know the All-Star race is the All-Star race, but still, we're gonna learn something there. 2 straight weeks where we learned something. Oh, Worldwide Technology Raceway. It's a how would you call it Worldwide Technology?
I call it Gateway. I'm not.
No. Would you call it? Is it a short track? Is it?
It's 1.3, right?
1.3, 1.2, something like that.
It has to be under a mile to be a short track.
So is it an intermediate track then? Because like it drives like a short track. I mean, it's got that paper clip design where turns 1 and 2 are really wide, turns 1 and 2 are really narrow, and turns 3 and 4 really wide. It's got its own flavor. IndyCar's put on a good show the last several years. The trucks have been racing there for a couple of years, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean they raced there a lot in like the early 2000s and then left and then came back. But yeah,
I think that'll be fun. Loudon's
been good for like the last 3 years. Somehow the track finally met this point with the car, and then you actually throw in the PJ1, where it's like oh, this is what this this track can do.
It was one of the few races where like the PJ1 actually worked.
Yeah,
where you felt like it added something to the race, because so many of these tracks, it's like, okay, it's just now you just have a black strip on the track where no one wants to go. Mm-hmm. Like, cool.
No,
great.
Like for years and years, New Hampshire was a race like, all right, let's just get this over with. But the last 3 years, the race where Harvick gave the boot to Kyle Busch was like 8 to go. Where Harvick and Denny Hamlin were drag racing, coming to the checkered flag and making contact. And then last year, like you had in the middle of the race, like Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, just having this freaking amazing, like very watchable battle, and it went on for a little bit, and then I think Blaney and Hamlin had their own battle. Maybe that was the year before. I don't know, but no, New Hampshire like finally met its moment, and you're right. if they don't apply the PJ1, which they didn't last year, but there was still some left. If
Daniel, it's March. It's not one fine moment. It's one shining moment. Get your corporate synergy branding correct. Come on.
Okay. All right.
Luther Vandross would be
yeah,
very disappointed.
But yeah, definitely New Hampshire is on that list. What else is left?
And then we start to repeat races again, like back to Daytona and
I can't
things like
wait.
That, so.
Okay, you're excited for Martinsville. I can't wait for Darlington.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm always excited for Darlington.
I cannot wait to see what this car does. That with once the tires are gone, with just that 4-inch spoiler. Darlington's my favorite track.
And now the Darlington stripe won't be nearly as costly because again, these cars can take a beating. You're not going to see so many flat tires. You're going to see guys slip and slide a bit more, but not suffer the consequences as drastically. So no, I'm with you. I've always been a fan of Darlington. I went to Darlington once, like 2007. So but I would love to go back. It was a great, the one time I was there was great. I would love to get back there. What do you say we make a trip sometime?
Oh, I'm down.
Podcast on the road.
Like right now I'm supposed to attend Gateway with Crow.
Cool.
I'm hoping that those certain like job things happen. I probably won't get to.
Right.
But that would be my like one race as a fan this year.
Are you going to try and make it to Indy like you did last year?
If someone pays for me to go.
I understand. I understand. Anything else you want to talk about?
So we briefly kind of touched on it earlier about sports entertainment, and I'm guessing so you read the Athletic story today that Jordan wrote.
Yeah.
Where he interviewed Marcus Smith, and in that story there's a quote from him that which I then included in my column that we'll publish tomorrow, where Marcus Smith said, "This is a sports entertainment business, and we served up a really entertaining weekend of racing here." And people are just going nuts over the sports entertainment business part of that quote, and saying that's like comparing it to like the WWE or something like that. Like they really hate it. I'm like, it's a sport. It's a thing that entertains us for 3 hours every week, and it's a business. Like, there's no lies detected. And others are saying, well, there's a fine line between doing something for the sport and like exploiting it for business reasons and whatever. So what like sports entertainment business, like what jumps into your mind when Marcus Smith says NASCAR is a sports entertainment business?
That's literally what every sports entity or league is. It's a sport entertainment business. I mean, what's the NBA without entertainment? You know, like imagine, let's say that the NBA made it illegal to dunk. Like you can no longer do a slam dunk. Are you like that's that there goes, like, imagine what the NBA would be like if like LeBron James could no longer dunk the ball or Giannis could no longer dunk a ball. Or like, and then on top of that, let's say they got rid of the 3-point line. So everything's worth 2, but you can't dunk. So like, I mean, great. It's just these leagues are in the business of making money and putting butts in seats.
Yeah.
And delivering a viable, entertaining product. Now, I do think when people see sports entertainment, they automatically think it's fair to think WWE because that's how they market themselves. That's how they brand themselves. That's one of their identifiers. Like they totally own, sports entertainment can kind of be seen as like a sellout like label. And like the WWE totally wraps its arms around it and they totally embrace that identity. It's part of their shamelessness that is so appealing about WWE. So I get the concern there, but at the same time, if there's no entertainment, then what is it? It's just, we were kind of texting.
I want to be entertained for 3 hours.
I do too.
I don't
we were texting about this yesterday. I was just like, because I saw people on Twitter just, this was such a polarizing race, and I understand why. There seems like there's hardly anyone in the middle, which is why Brad Keselowski's comments were kind of refreshing. But these like, for the people who thought that Atlanta is now permanently ruined, and this what once was a great track is now just completely lost any sort of appeal to them. Like, what's the option here? Do you want to watch Kyle Larson lead all these laps again, or insert driver X? Not just picking on Kyle Larson, because that's the most recent.
That's what he did last year.
That's what he did last year. Or like Martin Truex, how he dominated at the Coke 600 that one year. Like you can stick to your purity, or your so-called, what you would consider purity. You can stick to that, but it's those same people who would rather have the old way, who would then turn around and wonder, well, why is no one watching NASCAR? Mm. What do you think? And it just feels like, and especially like all sports leagues have these people who, are kind of hesitant to change. And I totally understand that. That's a reasonable feeling to have sometimes. It's totally fair. I've been on that side of things too. But I kind of lost my point. No. So it just feels like, it feels like NASCAR could like resurrect Dale Earnhardt, and people would still find a way to like bitch about it. And it just feels like you, I don't know. I feel like NASCAR, and props to the people at Atlanta Motor Speedway, because like you said earlier, nobody was asking for this. Like, literally no one was asking for this, but they went ahead and did it anyway. And now, they're sitting in the sun on this, it's kind of saying, told you so. We're just at the point now, and part of this is just because social media is just everywhere, and everyone has opinion about everything all the time, constantly. But like, it just gets to the point where it just becomes exhausting. And like sometimes it's okay to not have an opinion on something. Like when Atlanta first announced these changes last year, it's like, okay, sure. Well, I literally didn't care. It's just like, all I knew was that the old way had become really boring, and I was never excited about Atlanta anymore. And I was open to something new.
Yeah.
And hey, if it didn't work, if it's on the other side and the race was still boring yesterday, I'd have been like, well, Atlanta is still Atlanta. But props to the people who took a risk and it worked.
Here's how I look at it. Like, every year that we would go to Atlanta, you'd see the highlight reel of Atlanta. And that highlight reel was Dale Earnhardt, Bobby Labonte's photo finish in 2000, Kevin Harvick's and Jeff Gordon's photo finish in 2001, and then the Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards photo finish 2005. And they didn't even include anything from like the Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson duel 2011. I think it was 2011.
Yeah, something like that.
So they didn't even include that. And that was really like the last memorable highlight reel moment that track had seen in a decade.
Didn't Atlanta also used to be like the second race on the schedule?
For a little bit, yeah.
So like, you go from the Daytona 500, like that's your marquee race. You're trying to get all the, you're trying to grow your audience, and like, trying to reach the casual fan. Like, here's our big race. Here's how good of a show we can put on. Now come back next week and watch us race at Atlanta. And just the wind just goes out of the sails.
Yeah. This is my thing. That one thing I hate about having the Daytona 500 as the first race of the year is what you just mentioned. You have this huge Super Bowl spectacle, first race of the year, but you no matter how many people you draw in that are new, they're going to see this. And if for whatever reason they decide, hey, I'll tune in next week, you're not getting that same thing. You're not getting what's representative of the sport.
Right.
So that's one thing I've always really resented about having the Super Bowl of NASCAR, the first race of the year, is that it's that style of racing.
To be fair, with the way this season's gone, I really feel like NASCAR's had a lot of momentum week to week to week. Like, there really hasn't been hardly any drop off. Like, I think NASCAR's really, found a really nice stride here with this new car. And props to them. I like every week I'm excited now. I don't know if I part of me suspects this will just be maybe a 1-year thing, just because, you know, everything's so new with this new car. We don't know what's going to happen, but like, I haven't been this excited to like sit down and watch a NASCAR race week to week in a very long time. And
like anecdotally, I see people comment like on Facebook or on Reddit or whatever saying, yeah, I haven't watched NASCAR regularly in like 10, 15 years, and I haven't missed a race yet this year. It's like, okay, all right.
That's great.
That's good.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, it just feels like they're on the upswing. It just feels like after these last couple of years of just kind of just being stuck in this, you know, 550 horsepower limbo, it just feels like the sport's in a good spot. I'll just put it that. It's in a really good spot. As an IndyCar fan, I'm very jealous because like the last couple of years, it's like, oh, Michael Jordan's a new owner with a new team, and Pitbull's a new co-owner with a new team, and IndyCar just has the same names with the same people doing the same.
In IndyCar's defense, their fields have increased.
They have
significantly in like the last 3 years.
The fields have increased, but it just, the new teams coming in, like they're these like little mom pa comparative mom pa teams, and it's not like there's this big splash of like big new owner joins IndyCar.
Well, I mean, Roger Penske buying the sport, I think kind of takes that place to a degree, don't you think? Like,
yes. I wish Roger Penske would have bought IndyCar 20, 30 years ago. there never would have been the split or any of the things that happened after that, and that's a whole other podcast. But yeah, it's just like, you see, like, you know, we mentioned 2311 and Trackhouse Racing, like, you know, these are teams who are competing in NASCAR, trying to change the business model of NASCAR to a degree, and in IndyCar that's just not happening, and there's a reason for that. You know, there's a reason why, you know, Danica Patrick was the golden goose, and now this year there's not going to be a single woman in the Indy 500. There's not even a single woman running full time in the sport. Like, there's a reason for that, and we both know why. Like, it's not like Danica Patrick was the golden goose. She was your most popular driver by far and away. She was the only recognizable driver that IndyCar had, and she's been at
Helio Castroneves, John.
No, I love Elio, but like, Danica by far and away had the notoriety that Elio never had. And partly that's just because she's a woman, and that's just the way it is. But, you know, you had this golden opportunity to get, you know, last time I checked, women were 51% of the population in the country. There's more women than men. You had a chance here to really get like a grassroots thing going, where you could bring more women into the sport, bring people into the sport and new blood. And now she's gone. And the only reason that Simona Di Silvestro was in the 500 last year was because that team got a lot of money from Penske. And now that team likely isn't going to be back to the 500 next year. Why is that? I wonder why. It's not.
We're just asking questions.
It's not hard to read the tea leaves. Like, if you want to do it, you would do it. But they're not. You're Roger Penske. You own the series. You're by far and away the most wealthy owner of the series. If you just, you know, say the word, it would get done. It happened last year. We have the proof is in the pudding. Mm-hmm. If you would do it, if you wanted to do it, if you really meant what you said, when you talked about changing IndyCar and making it more inclusive and more forward thinking, you would do it. And to their credit, they have the Road to Indy. They have Ernie Francis in the Indy Lights series, black driver with the black owned team. That's cool. Let's do more. I don't want there to be a token, you know,
which is, you know, very, the criticism you're laying out are all valid, but it's very weird to say that about IndyCar, because when you put it up against NASCAR, it's a much more diverse series. Like,
yes, in
far and away.
Yes, in terms of what the drivers look like, their nationality. Yes, for sure.
So, I mean, you just want them to do better.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm criticizing because I care. Yes. I want them to do better, and like I'm not bashing. This all comes from a place of love, because these things that I like, I enjoy auto racing. I want to see it do better and thrive and prosper and thrive, and I don't want to see it just be, especially IndyCar. I don't want to see it just stay in this lane where it just appeals to like Midwestern white men in their 50s. I just don't. Like, not to say those guys aren't welcome in the sport anymore. They absolutely are, but like, it's for everyone. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what did you think of Jimmy Johnson in his first top 10? Was almost the top 5.
Almost the top 5. He was running 5th with a couple laps there to go. Good for him. I'm really happy to see him succeed. Honestly, just the fact that he's even competed in IndyCar at all is a testament to his talent, because these cars are completely different. And I think his best finish before yesterday was like 17th. Like he's basically been a non-factor whenever he's been in a car. So to see him in an environment that he's comfortable with, and like there at the end, he was making some really bold moves. Like he was passing guys on the outside, and he was passing like Simon Pagenaud, who's a series champion and an Indy 500 winner, and he was up there competing. And he passed Scott Dixon, who's probably the greatest IndyCar driver of all time, certainly of his generation. So it was really impressive to see. And he's doing the 500 this year, and I'm really looking forward to that.
I tweeted yesterday, like, can we build a time machine so we could send Jimmy Johnson back to the early 2000s so he could thrive in IRL?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he would have crushed it. Yeah, he would have absolutely crushed it. Because like early 2000s IRL, like who was there? Like there was Elio and like Paul Tracy and Jill DeFerrin. Like that's kind of it. Scott Dixon wasn't quite Scott Dixon yet. I mean, 2000s IRL was not good. I think you had like
those races at Texas were amazing.
Oh yeah, no, they were always the races at Texas are always amazing, except for the last couple with the PJ1. Although yesterday was cause for optimism. So, but yeah, no, I'm excited to see Jimmy doing well. And like I said, I can't wait to see him at the 500. So,
like, to my memory, Jimmy Johnson's like the first guy who's ever gone from NASCAR to IndyCar. Like Foyt and Andretti don't count because they were never full time. And they were like bouncing back and forth all the time.
Montoya went from IndyCar to F1 to NASCAR, then back to IndyCar. But I get what you're saying. Just straight up Cup car guy going into IndyCar. And same with Dario Franchitti. Like he did IndyCar, NASCAR, then back. I know, but I just going straight Cup career into IndyCar. I can't think of anyone. At least anyone of consequence off the top of my head.
Yeah, anyone of consequence. So that's.
I know Cody Ware did a race in IndyCar last year. I think he did like 1 or 2 ovals, but not a full time.
Yeah,
not a full time thing racing for a team that wasn't a family thing.
Yeah,
I can't.
And the fact that he's doing it at his age is remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
But I also kind of like hate that it's taking a Jimmy Johnson who was, I don't want to say washed up in NASCAR, but he wasn't Jimmy Johnson anymore in NASCAR.
No, he wasn't.
It sucks that it's taking a driver of his caliber at that point in his career to go to IndyCar. It's like, man, like if he had like,
because it's the money.
If he'd won his final championship, which he in 2016, if he had won that and then said, you know what, mic drop, I'm going IndyCar racing. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, I agree. But the money comparatively is just astronomical. It's not even close. I mean,
yeah,
it's the purse for the Daytona 500 is what, like 40 million? Like the purse last 23 million?
I would need to look it up. I'm
I'm pretty sure the purse is like, either way, like the purse for the 500 last year was like 7 million. Or maybe 12 million.
Well, I know
it's almost a 2-to-1 gap.
There's at least been one race since the 500 this year where the purse was like 8 million. So, and then then it was a very, very big drop to what the purse was for Xfinity. It was significant.
For the 2020 Daytona 500, the purse was 23.6 million. For IndyCar, it's like 12 million. And it was 7 before Penske bought it and put a bunch of money into the purse. Yeah. And that's the Indy 500. 12 million. You said what race was the purse was 8 million?
There was one of the races since the 500 this year was around 8 million.
And that's just a average run of the mill NASCAR. And then the Indy 500, the marquee race of the series, is only paying 12. Like the money's just, you're just not. I mean, you wonder why Sam Hornish made the jump. And Danica Patrick made the jump. It's like, because they could come in like 15th but still make a decent living.
Yeah,
like it's not even close. So I I sound like I'm like the most like cynical IndyCar fan in the world. I'm not. I promise you. I'm not. I promise you. And I'm very happy that Roger Penske owns the series now, because it's definitely going in a much better direction than what it was.
Can you explain to me why everyone's in a rush to get Colton Herta into F1?
Because Colton Herta wants to go to F1.
Like,
I mean, simple as that. Colton Herta wants to go to F1. A lot of these guys want to go to F1. Alexander Rossi was supposed to be in F1, but he wasn't good enough, so he came back to IndyCar. Pato O'Ward has stated, I want to be in Formula One. He grew up in Mexico watching Formula One. That's what he wants to do. Also, again, talk about money. You think there's a disparity between IndyCar and NASCAR? IndyCar and Formula One? Are you kidding me? Like
the entry fee for F1's $200 million.
Oh yeah, but Andretti wants, Michael Andretti wants to get a team together to go do F1 racing, and Colton Herta grew up on the West Coast watching Formula One, and he wants to be a Formula One guy. And honestly, it would suck to lose him from the 500 point.
That's my thing. It's like, okay, he has the Herta name. Anyone who's followed IndyCar for the last 25 years knows who Brian Herta is. He's young. He's an American. I know there's not an American in F1, so I get that's part of it.
Kevin Magnussen disagrees. No, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
But it's like, why are we trying to like rush him out the door? Like, you should be fighting to keep him. I
completely agree. Bizarre. I completely agree. For a lot of these guys, F1 is the dream, and IndyCar is a way to get them there. And even guys like Fernando Alonso and Joseph Newgarden have said that, more license points, because to race in F1, you have to have license points. There's some sort of licensing program. You have to have points to qualify for F1. For whatever reason, IndyCars doesn't really count for a lot of points. And like Fernando Alonso has said, change it. Joseph Newgarden has advocated saying change it. He races in IndyCar. It would suck to see Colton Herta go, because he's really good. He has potential to be the best of his generation. But at the same time, like, would you rather be doing double headers at Iowa Speedway or racing in Monaco? It's just when you put it that way, it's like, well, duh. Like, and the 500 will always be
the last
there.
10 years have been dominated by one dude who's finished on the podium. Apparently, I think the number was 183 podiums for Lucy. I was like,
but hey,
like what?
Formula One has a new chassis design this year, a whole new car. Mercedes doesn't appear to be as dominant yet as they have been in recent years. And also, Formula One's popularity is just because of the Netflix series. It's gone through the roof. And it's really, if you're IndyCar, it's really hard to it's been really hard to grow the sport in the last couple of years. I mean, the thing with IndyCar that you always hear is we need more ovals, and they go to ovals and no one's there. It's like, okay, why should we do this then? So I don't know. IndyCar is in a really weird transition spot right now. There's a lot of things going on, but I will just say that I'm glad Roger Penske's in charge and not Tony George. Everyone is in agreement on that. So, but to answer your question, just follow the money. I mean, the money in F1 is it's not even close. I know you said they got a new car in F1, but I just like, for my entire life, I would see an F1 race and I would see that the pole sitter won, and I would see no passing at all after the first lap. I'm like, why is this the most popular racing league in the world? I don't get it at all. We're just two Americans that love to turn left.
Hey, I like road courses, sir.
No, I like road courses too.
So
I like road courses too. I think it's just a culture thing, reading this book I'm reading now, Faster by Neil Bascom. Get it at your nearest bookstore. But all these first races that started in Europe, they were all road courses. They weren't ovals. That's just in their DNA over there, the way that ovals are in our DNA here in America. So it's just a cultural thing, I think. But yeah, if you're given the choice here, you could be the most successful IndyCar driver and make, I have no conception of how much money they make. I'm just throwing out a number. Say you're the most successful IndyCar driver, you win every race, you win the championship, you're beating the pants off everyone, and you're making $3 million a year. Or you could be the worst Formula One driver and get like 20 a year, what are you going to do? And you get to travel the world, race all over the world, come in last place every race, never be a factor, but you're making like 4 or 5 times the money.
Well, reputation wise, I'd rather be considered the best of something.
And that's fair. And there's no wrong option. There's no wrong answer there. But like, you understand why option B is still alluring.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. We'll all fit. We'll save that for the Colton Herta podcast after the 500 or something.
Coming to a podcast near you, the Colton Herta podcast.
The Colton Herta story, sponsored by Gamebridge.
All right. So did we run out of racetracks that we were looking forward to the next gen car?
Yeah,
I think we did.
I think we did. But hey, Coda's gonna be fun.
Pocono.
They still race Pocono?
Yeah,
I thought they took Pocono off the schedule.
They took one of the two.
I am dubious about Pocono. I'm dubious, to say the least. Although if Pocono does well, I think NASCAR should explore testing these new cars on the oval at Indy.
I mean, they're eventually going to go back to the oval. Probably within. I think they'll give. If I had to make a guess, they'll give the road course 2 more years. So you have like a 3-year trial. You got the new car now. We'll see.
Ooh, I don't know.
Well, so I think 2024 they might be back on the oval.
I'm dubious. Again, dubious. So, but hey, I wanted to succeed.
Yeah,
I wanted to, because I went to the Brickyard a bunch growing up, loved it, fun race, and they repaved it in 08, and that was the end of that. So, but we'll see. We'll save that for later this summer. So, but in the meantime.
All right, so I think that will do it for this inaugural episode of Dropping the Hammer for 2022. This was fun, man.
It was fun. Thanks for having me.
This was really good. So this weekend is COTA. Who's your pick to win at COTA?
Put me on the spot. Wasn't even thinking. I don't want to say Chase Elliott. It wouldn't surprise me if you won, but I don't want to say Chase Elliott because that seems obvious. Is there any like special one-off road course racer for this race?
Boris said, I believe.
Is he really? Good for that guy. You know what? Man.
Joey Hand.
That's not a real name. You just made that up. There's no way. There's no one named. He's got
a press conference tomorrow. So
good for him. I still don't believe you. It's a simulation. I'm gonna go. Man, this is so tough. Is it boring to say Austin Cindric?
Not yet. I mean, he's only won once in the Cup Series.
That's true. You know what? Is Allmendinger doing this?
Yeah. Pretty sure.
Give me the dinger. Going with the dinger.
Okay. All right.
That's my pick. You heard it here first. The dinger.
Well, I interviewed Tyler Reddick a few weeks back, and I asked him what track he was most looking forward to getting to in the next gen car, and he said COTA.
Cool.
So
if he wins, I will gladly go to Cheddar's. I will gladly support Cheddar's.
I haven't even looked at what his road course record has been up to this point. But given how he's been performing up to this point this season and his excitement for it, I'm going to take Tyler Reddick to win and finally get his first NASCAR Cup Series victory.
Just looking at Daytona road course finishes, he finished 38th and 18th. But Daytona's a whole different animal than what COTA is. But yeah, sure, why not? I like him a lot. I'd be happy to see him win in any fashion, be it road course or oval or whatnot. So I would gladly go to Cheddar's to support Mr. Reddick. So why not? The dinger and Reddick.
So right now, like the modern era record for first time winners in the season is 5, which was back in 2011. So we've already had Austin Cindric
and Briscoe.
So that's 2, and we have viable options in Reddick, Chastain, and Suarez. Mm-hmm. So that could get us to 5. Getting past that is, I think
it's tough, but Talladega and Daytona are always crapshoots, and then with rain shortened races, you never know. So, not that I'd say that would necessarily be impressive with the rain shortened race. But like,
what I'm saying is like if all that were to happen, it might be a very long time before we saw another like real like Harrison Burton. I think he's talented. He hasn't come out to shoot very well. Not having a great year at all.
No,
but he's someone who could maybe potentially pull a rabbit out of his hat.
Yeah.
Todd Gilliland, we'll see. But
we'll see.
I'm sorry.
That's your scouting report for Todd Gilliland. We'll see.
But beyond that, it's really hard to figure out where the next potential wave of first-time winners will come, because like in the last 3 years, we've had Michael McDowell get a win, Christopher Bell get his, Cole Custer pulled one out of the hat 2 years ago at Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of easy to forget, like we've had some of those first-time winners already kind of taken off the table here in the last couple of years. And this is a really strong year for potential first-time winners.
If only Jacques Villeneuve had won the Daytona 500.
And that's where we'll end this episode. So thank you. Home. So thank you for listening, guys. You can follow me on Twitter at Daniel McFadin. You can email the show email us at danielmcfadin@gmail.com. Follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/danielmcfadin. John, where can they find you?
I am Twitter and Instagram. It's the same handle at Jon LaFollette, because I just
you might want to spell it
JonLaFilet, Jon LaFollette.
Okay. How did your cover band concert go?
You mean the one that like 3 months ago? It was fun.
I never checked in with you on that.
No, it was fun. It was fun. We for those of you not in the know, I did a cover, a Fountains of Wayne cover band. They were the band that had Stacy's mom, but they were also a cult band, had a really good run. Their principal songwriter passed away from COVID, so we did a couple of tribute shows to honor him, and they were both a hoot. So no musical things in the pipeline just yet. My whole life is in limbo till I get these bar results back. So
okay. Have you seen the TikTok trend where someone is pretending to be a mom and they're naming their baby?
Yes.
What's her name? Her name is
Stacy. Yep. Hey, if I'm lucky enough to get a wife worthy of that meme, then yes, I would seriously consider. Dad, why my name's Stacy? Well, sit down and let me play you a song. It's all about hot moms, you see. For your mom is incredibly hot. I'm sorry. Podcasts.
Have you speaking of mid-2000s pop music, seen or heard the cover a guy made of 1985 where it's 2005?
Yes, because the same distance is, I've seen that. Yeah, the same amount of time has elapsed.
The first time I heard that was depressing, while also entertaining.
Because we're old.
Well, the one part of it that just threw me was she thought she'd get a hand on a member of Yellow Card. I was like, ooh. Yellow Card? Who's thought about Yellow Card since the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack? I had not even given a single thought to Yellow Card until that guy came out.
Funny story about Yellow Card. It's 2010. I'm at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for pole day at the 500, and guess who's playing? Yellow Card. But guess what? Their drummer got sick or stepped away for personal reasons, so it was an acoustic set at a racetrack. Now it's pole day, so cars are going by one at a time, and I was there. But so they're playing their songs and they're singing in key, and then whenever a car would come by, the singer would go to the key of the engine. So he would start because he couldn't, because it was so loud, it overwhelmed his monitors where he couldn't hear himself, and he would just sing in the key of an IndyCar engine. And the Yellow Card had the violin player. The violin player figured out the tone of an IndyCar, and at least in 2010, the tone of an IndyCar was an E flat. So you're welcome.
and the more you know.
The more you know.
All right, that's it for this episode of Dropping the Hammer. Maybe Mr. John Law will come back next week, and then the week after that, he's got free time.
For now.
But all right, anyway, this has been Dropping the Hammer with Dan McFadin. I'm Dan McFadin. Thank you, John, for joining me.
Happy to be here.
All right, take care, guys.